and I want to welcome our audience from all over the world. Thank you guys for taking the time to tune in today. Today is our 8th live event, not ninth, and we are going to be talking about taking your business global in 2021. What we've found in terms of trends, as well as speaking to a bunch of merchants and people who sell online in Canada especially, is most of them don't focus on the international market. Most of them don't know how to get up and started really, really quickly and seamlessly. And there's been a lot of questions about how do I take my product international? What do I need to kind of think about when it comes to the global market, my audience, as well as, how do I market out there and get my product looking good and ready for people to buy? Obviously, shipping, fulfillment, duties and taxes are a big thing. And then kind of really looking at their go-to-market strategy and understanding who the right market for them is. Is it the whole world, or do they focus on certain places? So before we get started with the exciting webinar about really helping businesses find new audiences, go global, and take their business to the next level, I'd love to first get a quick introduction from you, Dahlia. Give us a little bit of a breakdown of your current role, what you do at Google, how long you've been there, and what are the kind of things you are involved in to try and make our customers, our retailers in Canada and the US really take their brands across the world and really kill it online.
Absolutely. So I've been at Google for a little over 5.5 years, which is crazy. Time definitely flies. But I'm essentially a partner development manager, strategic partner development manager, BD, however you'd like to frame it, and obviously focused on Google Shopping in that vertical. So I work with partner services, so merchant services, like obviously eShipper, to help merchants scale their business or provide them tools and insights that can help them in various sectors of just the merchant tools ecosystem, merchant services, so that honestly ranges from anywhere from the enterprise to the long tail. It's kind of just a plethora, obviously, because there's so many services out there globally, regionally. So it's a little bit of that, and just obviously working with great partners like yourself. So
I hear a lot from people in the office and people online that they're not sure who Google is anymore, because there's so many different things that Google has its hands in, right? So from your perspective, it's a huge part within the business to really support the growth of e-commerce and really help these online retailers take their business to the next level. There's a ton of tools Google provides. There's a ton of funding Google is doing, and we'll go through those in a little while. For the audience just tuning in, eShipper is an online platform for shipping. We've been in the Canadian market for around 16 years now. We were one of the first online shipping platforms in Canada, and we're one of the only ones that actually support each and every major carrier, including things like UPS, FedEx, DHL, and so on. As part of our sister organizations, we also support businesses with import from their manufacturers, cross-country rail and road services, getting yourself set up on marketplaces like Google Shopping, as well as scaling your businesses to the next level by warehousing and fulfillment. A lot of time that we spend today and a lot of time that we spend with online retailers is really about pushing them to focus on what they're really good at and what they're kind of enjoying the most, which is product development, sales, marketing, and really taking their brand to the next level when it comes to partnerships, diversification, and so on and so forth. So in turn, and in doing that, today's session is really about enhancing your thought process when you're an online organization or business, giving you real strategic ideas and case studies as to where people have done really well by either going international or spreading out between different product sets, looking at what's growing and kind of complementing their product with other sellers or other influencers and so on and so forth. So a very exciting session we have set up for you today. And we've taken Dahlia out of her busy schedule so she can really give us an insight from what's going on in one of the largest organizations in the world, Google, and what they're doing in terms of supporting your businesses and your growth internationally as well as domestically. So with that being said, the backdrop of our discussion is really around where we are today, which is kind of a year into COVID. So, what's the pandemic done over the last 12 months for everyone, whether they were in retail, online, like yourself and myself. We first spoke a year ago in the peak of COVID, and we were both working from home. And I remember the funny time when, we started this meeting with 4 Google execs. And at the start of the meeting, I said, look, my boss is home today. And if he wants to join the meeting, he's going to come and join the meeting. And that's my little 3-year-old. And he sure came. He came and started talking to everybody at Google. And you guys were amazing. You were so good with him. And he left without screaming too many bad things at me, because I had to shoo him off so we could carry on with our meeting. But it was great to see that, we're all kind of moving and kind of adapting to what is everybody's different lifestyles and so on and so forth. So with that being said, we found our customers, especially at eShipper, found really great sales internationally through the pandemic. And one of our clients was doing around 70% of their orders in Canada, 30% in the US, just because they weren't marketing that strong at that time. When they started to flip the conversation and start to think internationally, today they're doing 50% of their orders internationally. They do 20% in Canada and 30% in the US. So a complete flip side of their business and how they've grown. And we'll take you through some of the steps that they took, as well as some of the ways that they've been able to keep their business sustainable, even though, marketing internationally and shipping internationally is expensive and is obviously going to play on your bottom line. The other big thing to really think about is Brexit, the EU. Canada has this great agreement with the European Union. And with Brexit happening and, the EU and the UK really kind of already having their own issues domestically when it comes to clearance and customs and so on and so forth, how has that kind of panned out, and what does that mean for a Canadian retailer? A quick story to share with you. One of my good friends in the UK actually imports his product from Germany. And he was telling me there's a 2-week plus delay right now on anything coming in by ground into the UK, because there's just chaos when it comes to the border. Nobody knows what the rules are. He's paying extra duties, but then he has to get them back at some point. Whereas our customers here are shipping daily from Canada into the UK. They take advantage of the trade agreement we have there, which means no duties and taxes, and clearance is being done really, really quickly because the air shipments are in. So as a Canadian online seller, that should really encourage you and motivate you to start thinking outside of Canada and really thinking about the international market. What we've also found through the pandemic is that there's been a amazing shift to e-commerce. I think we're now 5 years fast forwarded into the e-commerce world as opposed to where we were pre-COVID. A lot of brands or a lot of businesses are also attempting a side hustle or are looking at ways that they can build an online store. So take an example of my friend in the UK again, who was put on furlough. So he kind of had to go home, and he got paid a little bit of money from his business as well as from the government. And obviously twiddling his thumbs, he said, I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to go online and I'm going to start selling a product. And he's been killing it. And, that just kind of has shown how people are able to go and set up these stores, and you don't need to have a huge background in marketing or in developing websites. It's been made really, really simple. We've seen sales in the US leapfrog 44% to their last year. So around $8 billion was spent. $800 billion was spent in the US in 2020 when it came to online sales. And we also found that e-commerce volumes doubled in the first wave of COVID. So with that being said, it sets up the right steam for us to kind of keep pushing forward. People are going online. People are focused domestically because that's the first market that they really want to go out to. But now let's take them to the next level. So Dahlia, talk us through a little bit of what Google is doing in regards to funding businesses who are either in brick and mortar or not online. How has Google really supported this cause to push forward? I know there's been programs like Shop Here in Canada. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing on your side.
Yeah. So last year, we partnered obviously with some Canadian brands and Canadian services, and really created, that shop here program where, we're basically creating online stores for, small, medium businesses. By that, I mean like under 10 full-time people, but helping them provide or create rather a digital presence. So let's say, to your point, a brick and mortar that was great, this cute little mom and pop shop down the street that you always get, cute items from, or just, very niche products. Now they have an opportunity to, with no overhead, create something and have, the training as well. It's not just let's, create something for you and then good luck. So
I think that's key. That's really key. You can throw a lot of money around and kind of see what happens, but I think that's one of the biggest things Google did was they actually funded $100 million with the government of Canada to digitize businesses. And one of the first programs that was launched was called Shop Here in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, with our market presence and the ability for us to kind of adapt really quickly, we worked with the program managers and was selected as one of the exclusive shipping and fulfillment partners to the Shop Here program. eShipper actually got a shout out from the mayor of Toronto, but we saw that Google really jumped on that as soon as they saw something like that trend. Like you said, I think the money part is pretty simple for large organizations, but it's really about the education. It's about the time spent on really coaching businesses as to what to do next once you've gone online. I recall a conversation with the first Shop Here business that started, and they sold tea downtown. And as we were onboarding this customer, he said, let's push our call to 2 or 3 days from today because I'm a little bit busy. I'm setting it all up and there's so much new things I need to learn. And I said, your store is already online. So he said, yeah, that's fine. I'll just have people pick up curbside pickup and come to my store to pick it up. And I said, okay, but what about somebody who wants to buy your product in Vancouver, for example? Yeah. You're going to need to ship to them, right? So it was really about letting them know what actually happened once they were online and, some of the great things that they need to start thinking about when it comes to shipping and fulfillment and everything else. But I think Google has a lot of presence when it comes to really educating the consumer as well as educating the retailer. So today's session, we're going to deep dive into a lot of those materials, a lot of those areas where Google has really set upon providing that knowledge and education. So let's move forward with our next slide, which is going to be around Google Shopping. I think there's a lot around how Google has come in and created this level of allowing businesses to, for free, list online. So if we keep moving the slides forward, guys, tell us a little bit about Google Shopping, Dahlia. What have you kind of seen and what's going on? What is Google Shopping? How does it work? And how do I get the most out of it?
Absolutely. So obviously there's, Google, everyone, uses search and understands that, uses YouTube, understands that. But one of obviously our great products is Google Shopping. And within, whether that's the tab or if you go to shopping.google.com directly, it's really an opportunity for users to connect with merchants. Like that is our mission. We want to provide the best experience for the users and as well as to the merchants and helping them essentially connect at that, highest point of intent. So within Google Shopping, there's essentially 3 programs available for Canadian merchants specifically. So there's obviously our, Google Ads, placement and all of that that's been around for, a long time, no surprise or, anything specific there. Then we have free listings. And this is really a free organic search result, incremental traffic, clicks, essentially, but this is to a D2C website. So similar to obviously ads, but it's free traffic in an organic roll-up instead of specific placement. So this is something that came out last year, and I'll talk a little bit more specific about it, a little bit later on. But it's something that was, a child of COVID. We launched it in the U.S. first, and then towards the end of last year, opened it up to all 48 countries that we're live in. And the third piece is this buy on Google piece. So selling directly on Google, having consumers, have one universal cart, add items to it, don't have to leave the Google UI, and you don't need a website for this. So to your point, MTS, if these people were brick and mortar before and they wanted to go digital, but didn't want, to create a website and didn't want, or didn't have the team or the bandwidth to do all of that as well. This is an outlet for them. So this is currently available via interest form, but I'll talk about this a little bit deeper.
So I wanna get in a little bit more here. So if I have a online website, I can list for free. And in order for me to list for free, I need to go through a current process that you guys have. And then once my listing is up and running, we'll talk a little bit about how to make sure that we're differentiating and making sure that we're utilizing all the tools that Google has on the listing tab. But more importantly, I can then spend some money on Google and advertise my products. So if I take a quick example of that, I want to buy a t-shirt. I go on Google normally and I'll type in t-shirt companies. And if I go onto the shopping tab, if I have a listing, my company and that the t-shirts that I sell, the SKUs will be listed there. However, if I want my product to go right to the top, I now need to start spending money and making sure that I'm using the right keywords and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. And the next slide, if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah. So obviously, these are just some key benefits of each of those programs. You obviously highlighted one with that free exposure, ads, obviously more visibility, curated audience, just more traffic, the bread and butter, I like to say. And then obviously being able to now have another outlet to provide a larger assortment to the users via buy on Google. So
now, Dahlia, a quick question for you. If I didn't have a website, but I had great products and, I wasn't part of the Shop Here program, so they didn't help me create the website, but I actually want to get involved. I can sell directly on Google and Google will allow people to buy from Google on my behalf, right? Yes. Is there a charge for that?
There is no charge, but there is a little bit of a caveat there. So right now it's live in the US and it's live in Canada, but cross-border only. So yes. Not domestic, but Canada going south into the US. So we'll dive into that just a little bit later as far as the specific and the nuances on that. But this really is an opportunity for retailers, merchants of all sorts, whether you are enterprise or you're long tail, or you're just getting started, or you've been in this for a while, or you're a marketplace merchant before on other platforms, but want to diversify. Like, these are all opportunities that really can benefit all types of merchants.
Now, one of the great things about what you mentioned earlier about buying directly from Google is it's not available for Canadian merchants to buy here. It's available for, not Canadian merchants, Canadian consumers to buy, but it is available for American consumers to buy. Mm-hmm. But having said that, on the flip side, if you're listing your products, one of the stats that we did get before this session was that most Canadians actually go onto Google first to search for a product and then go to websites. So it's key that this doesn't only help you with international selling, it also helps you with your domestic, because a lot of Canadian residents actually use Google to search for the product that they want to buy. So very, very important, very, very key benefits here, where getting on Google is not just about the international side. Even though this session is really about international, it also helps with your domestic reach.
Yeah, great. I mean, yeah, absolutely. We can actually even highlight, with free listings last year, we did some case studies, and that were obviously, based on the US market, but since we had opened that up about a year ago, I want to say maybe 11 months. And one was obviously a retailer, Sharper Image, which is a familiar name in the US market. And they were, an ads customer as well. They added free listings to their marketing plan and were obviously getting a huge lift of 35,000 free clicks in under 6 months. So that's pretty significant. So it's obviously nice to see that the things that we're doing are benefiting the user, because that is, what we want and what in the tools and services that we're building. So, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Just a quick question here. How can a business qualify to benefit from Google Shopping? So is there anything special they need to do in order to actually get listed on Google and get onto Google Shopping?
Yeah, so there's obviously, we have Google Merchant Center, which is where everything is housed. So whether that's you using a channel partner for your order management, or if you're already a DTC website through any e-com platforms, you can, usually there's a button or some widget of sorts that can send your feed to a Google Merchant Center account once you've created one. But everything is housed in there. So feeds, order management, if it is through obviously buy on Google, any analytics, non-related to ads. Obviously, ads has its own bucket and own tools of sorts. But that's our home. That's our home base. So Google Merchant Center houses everything. But we do have some tools and things that merchants can leverage for trends, knowing where to scale markets, understanding markets, what's going on that live on a different destination. So I'd love to talk about that in a bit.
Fantastic. Take us through this example in a bit more detail, because I see there was a 35,000 lift in clicks, 3.8% boost in website traffic. What do you think these guys did really, really well in order for them to be able to get a lot of this exposure and higher traffic?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we see that obviously having great product images, great, product descriptions, great pricing, and frankly, to your point and to eShipper's point, great shipping services. So these are all things, even as a D2C website, not just, using that buy on Google perspective or program, that's really key factors that make that user's experience, that consumer want to purchase something, and provide seamless checkout, and maybe already having a I'm not sure specifically what they did, but having some type of like login where consumers' information is already stored there. That's obviously something that makes it easier for a consumer to transact, that easier click through. So those are some things that are definitely staples, but unfortunately aren't everywhere. But I'm not sure on the specifics of what they did on their end. I'm sure
But to your point, I think what is key is that it's not just enough to go in there and list your product. There are a number of factors that need to be addressed in order for your exposure to really become exponential. So fortunately, from an audience perspective, guys, eShipper and its teams have been through some training, some technical training done by Dahlia actually on Google. So we actually have a good expertise on how to take your brand from your D2C or your retail into a Google shopping listing, as well as exposing the photography side, the keywords that are used, things that will actually help you to propel your brand and kind of be seen in the right way. Let's stop for a few questions here. So Eric Mendez asked, is Shop Here available in BC? So Eric, what's ironic is Shop Here was only available in Toronto when we first started, but with Google's $100 million funding, it was a Canadian-wide initiative. So yes, it is available in BC. If you search for Shop Here, you'll probably be able to get somebody who will be able to help you get started. But if you'd like to work with us, email me at sales@eshipper.com, and I'll be more than happy to get you in touch with the right person. Kerry, just to answer your question in regards to packaging, I think it's going to be dependent on the commodity you're shipping and some of the rules that come across with the type of products that you ship into the US. So we can take that offline if you have an account manager, or we will be sharing our email addresses and so on. So please reach out and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. One last question we'll go through. Is it possible for customers to directly buy from Google listings without coming on our website? So you mentioned if you have a D2C site, we'll use that. If you don't, then you can buy on Google. Talk a little bit about whether if I have a site and I don't want them to come to my site, I just want them to buy off the Google listing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something it doesn't have to be, one or the other. It definitely can be both. If you have, product listings that drive to your website, that's great. If you also want to opt into that buy on Google program, you can do that at the same time. So that's really the user's choice at that point, depending on pricing, promotion, things of that sort that you're enabling on that feed. But let's say you can go down to a product level. If what products do you want maybe only on one program? Do you want everything, showing up everywhere? So it really can be super customized, but in short, yes, you definitely can do that.
Okay, brilliant. And I want to summarize what we've just covered in the last 10 minutes. So We covered how you can qualify for Google Shopping. There's not much qualification, to be honest with you. How to maximize your reach. We talked around photography and sharp images, as well as keywords, and really kind of doing your due diligence when it comes to your listing, working with organizations and partners of Google who already kind of have a good know-how of it. And then we also talked a little bit about success stories. So you talked about sharper image and kind of how much they were able to gain through this initiative. So moving on, we want to talk a little bit about diversification, because a lot of our audience today has a website, or they're thinking about getting a website. Most of them go through, BigCommerce, Shopify, WooCommerce, and so on and so forth. And then they live there and they do everything they can to pull as much traction into their website as possible. So when we talk about marketplace diversification, it's really around thinking about, outside of your online store, where else can you sell your product, and how much will it cost you to do so? So we know with Google, it's free to list. There's no cost in actually having a checkout. But the most important thing, outside of just the benefits of what sales you'll get, is the fact that, as a marketplace, you have an audience that's already kind of interested in buying a product, right? So being a part of any marketplace allows you to cross-sell your product amongst different brands that are already present. And you're already talking to a customer or a consumer that is interested in buying the product. They've searched that term because they really want to buy it. So their buying stage is great. It's not like they've just seen a Facebook ad and now they're interested. They've actually gone in and typed something specific. So when it comes to being a part of the Google Shopping ecosystem, have you found that there are other areas that people need to think about in terms of diversification from their website and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point on, people go online, search for things because they want to purchase it. But there is actually, a few shopping journeys, right? Like it's, the reviewer, that's wants, maybe has, it's Mother's Day, or, I don't know, some holiday or birthday or whatever, and they're looking for items, or inspiration. So that's a shopping journey in itself. Then there is, further down the funnel, I know what I want. I'm just really here to find a good deal. Give me 5 minutes and I'm out. So there's a few of that. Or it's, that browsy person that's like, I might be moving soon, and these are the items that I want, but I'm not fully set on something. Let me, leverage images. And then that turns into, some of those have product listings tied to them. So it really varies. And then you can also, maybe it's, someone had a child's birthday and you go on YouTube and watch a bunch of reviews. So there's it's really that shopping journey is unique for every user. But that's where obviously Google provides great insight throughout that shopping journey to make sure that the merchants are providing great products.
And I think, just to touch on that. So within the points we have here is really about mitigating risk as well, right? So if you're not getting a lot of people coming to your website, people are going on Google, people are searching for specific products. This is a great area for you to just be able to expose your brand to a bunch of people who never knew who you were. And if you have the ability to push your listing straight back to your website, it's a funnel to bring people back to your home, right? So with that being said, especially with our audience today, there's a couple of things that you need to think about when you're thinking about marketplaces or diversifying into different sales channels. The first is always going to be around scalability, right? You want to automate the order processing for your end customer as well as your internal team, so that you're not having to manually manipulate things on a day-to-day basis. If you get 5 orders here in your Google Shopping and you get 5 orders on your website, you should easily be able to streamline everything into one place and create your shipping labels, your fulfillment emails, and kind of move on, as opposed to spending a lot of time on different sales channels looking for orders. And then, accuracy goes down because you're a human being, you're going to miss things, right? So automation and technology is really, really keen. Think about simplicity and speed as well, right? Because if I place an order on your website and you say there's a 24-hour turnaround, I don't want to go to a marketplace where I have to wait 48 hours or longer because it's not your website. So think about simplicity and speed when it comes to order generation and getting your product out. It also comes down to who you're working with. So for example, if I talk about some of my current clients at eShipper and in our warehouse at eShipper Plus, we tend to push on automation and technology a lot because we really want to, number one, be able to ensure that inventory is being replenished really, really quickly, so you're never out of stock, and you're not selling something that's out of stock. So when you have this level of automation and technology, if something is sold on your Shopify store or something is sold through your Google Shopping ad, you want to be able to say, yeah, I have 9 products when I, after my 10th, and so on and so forth. So you can keep that seamlessly moving, as well as ensuring that the warehouse that you either operate yourself or the 3PL that you might be working with are able to help you with that technology. And that is one of the key things that we had to do between eShipper and Google when we first started speaking together, was ensuring the user journey was really simplified. Because to me, with the experience that we have of our retailers, everything is moving at 100 miles an hour. And the last thing we want to do is either drop the ball on an order or not be able to facilitate a specific order because the automation doesn't work. So we really push on that, and it's really, really important. I think the last point as well is, when you're thinking about diversification, is sending out the right message to your customers and setting the right expectations as to how shipping will work, and transit times, tracking, is it coming out of the same fulfillment hub or a different one, and so on and so forth. People and consumers like more information as opposed to less information. So I think that's really, really important. So with that being said, it kind of gives us a really good indication of how to work around the market diversification. And when you think about, taking your brand global, you might be going into the UK or into Australia or Germany. You need to have the right shipping solutions when people place those orders, as opposed to, I'm going to think about that once I'm actually successful, because you'll either end up losing on your bottom line, or you'll have to reject orders because it's causing you to lose money as opposed to make money. Now, with that being said, there are some really key points around social commerce and kind of what the future of e-commerce looks like. So, Dahlia, if you don't mind, let's dive a little bit into that topic. I'm not sure how much of our audience actually is familiar with the wording social commerce, but I know once you explain it, it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to highlight a point that you just made, though, right? Is the expectation for from a consumer's perspective. They want that clarity. They want to know if you are going to take, 4 days to ship that item, or, it's going to take 4 days for them to get that item. At least you're setting that expectation and being transparent with them, and being that outlet of, knowing the dependability, trust. You want that merchant to trust you as a merchant, whether that's D2C or on a marketplace. That reliability, like how many chances do you have? Even think of yourself as a consumer. If you were buying something and you had a bad experience, are you likely to go back to that? Probably not. Or if there was not communication, if there was, MTS mentioned the delays in EMEA, like if there's not communication on that, that's, it's going to provide not the best frictionless experience for that user, and obviously just that they're less likely to return. But if you communicate and you're clear and you're building that trust with the user and making them feel, fully inclusive, like they're obviously more likely to purchase again, even if that shipping isn't, the 2-day, standard, quote unquote standard these days. But yeah, that falls into that consumer trust falls into social commerce. So social commerce, obviously, we're looking at, the Browsy, the Insta shop, the Facebook shop, we're working on a pilot that we announced a few weeks ago on YouTube Shop, or I'm not sure the official name on that, so I apologize. But being able to provide this platform for discoverability. So I had mentioned before that consumer journeys, user journeys can really vary, either top funnel Browsy or down to the bottom line, I know what I want. So last year during COVID, we saw a huge shift to that, right? So many people were on their phones all day long, or just behind a screen, not walking maybe meeting room to meeting room. So this opportunity for just browsing content and buying things where they see it, or whatever platform. And we're looking at TikTok now and how that developed last year, and the conversations they're having with different partners to see if they can digitalize that. I heard something about Snap this morning, trying to get into this and live shopping. So like, because I feel like our environment and what we're kind of surrounding ourselves with when it comes to social platforms, it's very instant, or it's very, content kind of
agreed
dies, or ages, retires after a few days. So a lot of these influencers and social media creators and are even creating their own brands, because now they have a platform and they have that essentially free marketing channel, right? Instead of outsourcing and paying an influencer, they can now advertise their own brand. And so we're seeing that, from the, and Instagram is a great perspective. They're doing great things, really pushing that envelope and helping products get discovered. So whether that's tagging in live videos, or tagging in photos, or even brands being able to create their own little like shop on Instagram, and same with as well. Obviously they're integrated to a degree on that, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all develops and how quickly it grows. I mean, Canada specifically, is still ramping up from some articles I've been reading, but it'll be definitely interesting, because obviously they still need shipping, they still need reliability, they still need trust, but it's going to be, is it going to really be something that's helpful for all verticals, or is it going to be something that's mostly apparel, electronic? Like, the future will tell, but it's definitely going to be an interesting area.
And I think with the entire thought process of social commerce, it comes down to social proof, right? And this kind of agenda of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. I know a couple of retailers in the US now also allow their consumers that when they purchase an item, they can share it online. So, Dahlia, hey, by the way, I just bought these new pair of shoes. And then Dahlia feels like, hey, I need to buy a new pair of shoes. So it's really great kind of marketing in itself, right? So I guess the message is really think about social commerce very seriously. People are always impulse buying at the end of the day. And I think what is really important about it too is that, it's a trend, and people are using it and exploiting it. And I think as our own in-house retailers and online businesses, like you said, Canada is still kind of lagging behind. So these are why these sessions are so important, to kind of make sure people really get insight into it. With that being said, there's a couple of questions here, a little bit technical from Kim, which I don't know if you're going to be covering off in the next few slides, but we'll touch on them really quickly. One is, how are you monitoring businesses that scan Amazon listings to resell on Google Shopping? They're using your photos, etc. And then one is around how Google supports small businesses compared to other larger businesses like Amazon and Etsy.
Yeah, both honestly great questions. So Google, obviously, we're trust-based. We take privacy very seriously. We take scams very seriously. I won't obviously dive too deep into that, but we have our processes that help regulate scam and fraudulent activity and anything really of that sort. Our goal, again, is to connect that user with the merchant and make sure that they both have an amazing experience. So that is the top priority for us.
Okay, and I guess in terms of how does Google support small businesses, Kim, I'm going to get to that in some of the other slides too. There's a lot of free resources that Google provides, which we'll touch on. So let's keep moving forward. I think we talked a great deal about market diversification and Google Shopping. Let's talk a little bit about your go-to-market plan. So I'm ready to go and I really want to push forward. Where do I start? What do I do? So I'll touch on the next kind of 5 minutes just to give you some ideas as to really what to focus on. So the first thing is obviously research, right? I think research is a two-part thing. So one is it's a science, because there's a lot of analytics that you should be following, but then it's also an art to really kind of see what's going on around you and being able to really exploit that information. So let's start with the science, which is the analytics. Number one, look at your internal data, right? So if I'm already selling product online, who's buying my product outside of Canada? Is it US-based consumers? Is it UK-based consumers? Australia? There's a ton of trends when it comes to international buyers, and we see almost the same top buyers internationally. It's normally the US, the UK, Australia, Germany, a lot of Western Europe. And those are the ones that, if you are seeing that within your own database, start there, because those people are obviously finding some level of synergy or complement with your product and really want to buy more and more of it. So that's number one. Look at demands and trends, right? So, Dahlia, I would love to get a little bit more insight from you on this. But when it comes to the free tools that Google provides, like this morning, I was scanning through a bunch of different things, and you have consumer insights, Google Trends, Grow My Store, and these don't only give you the ability to see what's going on around the world internationally for a product that you are either selling today or want to sell, but there's also this level of, how do I improve my store? There's so many areas that Google's providing just by doing a quick scan of your website to say, hey, this needs to be sharper, or these words need to be used better, there's a spelling error, and so on and so forth. So maybe you can touch on a little bit about that. What tools does Google provide you with for free online, where an online business or an online retailer can actually go and utilize?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we know Trends. I'm sure Google Trends is something that people are at least familiar with, as far as a tool, or just maybe they just thought it was a thing. But Think with Google is a great resource. It's a website. Highly suggest people go to it, or you could just Google Think with Google and it'll come up. But within that is a plethora of insights. So whether that's articles, and that's globally or domestically. If you want to just look at Canadian, insights and blogs and things of that sort, you can definitely do that. You can filter it as you see fit. But those, within those articles are some good points on, maybe marketing strategies or recent things that have worked. So that's just a bucket of just, maybe late night reading, or just, sometime when you just want to sit down and read something. But to the tools point, we have Test My Site, which is actually for mobile. So if you have a website and you're trying to make it mobile friendly, that's a great tool to utilize. Then we have I think it's called oh my goodness, what is the Build My Site? I apologize. Or basically,
I saw Grow My Site today, or Grow My Store.
I'm blanking. But yeah, it's Grow My Site. So that actually was also a child of last year. So where you can enter your URL, and Google basically will send you recommendations based off the findings there. So great opportunity. These are free tools. Like why not leverage these? Even if you have a great site that it's no, everyone can improve, and everyone could, or maybe not. Maybe you're already set, and Google's like, great, good job. Okay.
You know what, Dahlia? I think there's also this level of, thinking one step ahead of that, right? So today you can put your own URL in there and see what you can improve, but tomorrow put in a competitor's URL and see what they're doing really, really well compared to you. It kind of takes us to the next point too, which is, how do you gather the right market intelligence? Market intelligence in theory is numbers or data that kind of points you to a certain direction, but I think how you use that data and where you find it is really key. So I was watching a YouTube blogger talking about how to kind of look at your business or how to set up a new business, and one of the things they mentioned was, if you have a product in mind, go look at the trends. So let's take baby products, for example, or activewear, and go and search what and which countries these products are being sold in the most. Okay, so I sell activewear today. I want to see who else really is into activewear. So I'll take an example of people in Germany really want activewear. Okay, perfect. The next step was to actually go into German-based organizations that sell activewear and look at their reviews. Because within their reviews, what you're going to find are negative reviews of people saying, by the way, you don't accommodate for plus size, or you don't accommodate for these colors, this material, and so on and so forth. And what that now allows you to do as a business in Canada is say, okay, I sell activewear, but I know my competition in Germany is missing a beat here. And through their reviews, you're able to now pick up an entire new product set that you can specialize for that market. So with that being said, I think the idea, even with Grow My Store, is don't just look at yourself and benchmark yourself against Google. Think about what competitors you've seen out there that do a really good job, and see within Google how well they're doing it. compared to what you perceive it to be, and then use some of that insight to optimize your own website and kind of think like that. So with that being said, I think that's the artistic part. The science is really looking at the analytics. The art is really about thinking how to use those analytics and where to get even more kind of relevant information.
But I want to highlight, though, it's not just at a brand level, right? It's not just, oh, I have a great website, so I'm going to be successful. It's, well, how are your products doing? What products are successful? Which ones should you have more stock in? And where? You know,
Right.
if you have more than one warehouse, then, you know, but your items are only, you know, if they're puffy coast and they're selling mostly on the East Coast, you're not going to put a bunch in a West Coast California warehouse, you know, like, because that's going to then in turn into longer shipping times. So
Right.
that's not going to provide that best experience, right? That, like, that flywheel is not going to turn as quickly as if, you know, being more prepared and putting that stock where inventories demand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And looking at, you know, seasonal wear, which countries have holidays coming up. Now, you know, thinking about countries in general, you also need to think about regulations. So I know for a fact Canada is one of the most difficult systems when it comes to getting your health regulations certified, whereas the UK and US are a lot more lax. So when you're thinking about products specifically in different countries, see what's prohibited, how long it takes for your product to be licensed, if it needs to be licensed or certified, and also think about the rules of those countries and those continents. The other big thing to think about is duties and taxes. So, you know, every country has different de minimis rates, and de minimis means what is my level that I can sell to a consumer on a daily basis before they have to pay duties and taxes or I have to pay duties and taxes. It's a real bother for a business or a consumer. Imagine this, right? I'm buying, my dad lives in the UK. I'm buying him a sweater for his birthday. He receives the sweater, and the next thing he knows, he has to pay $20 because he's got duties and taxes that Imtiaz didn't pay before he shipped the product out. So on his birthday, he forked out even more money. That sounds like my dad too. So with that being said, I think it's really key for you to kind of really think about those type of things, and then kind of really understanding dimensions and weights and packaging and how you really put together the product. So when it comes to your order has been generated in the UK, you have 10 orders to ship out there. Okay, well, how am I going to pack this? Because whatever I end up packing it in, it's going to cost me more and more money for bigger packaging, heavier packaging, and so on and so forth. So if we touch a little bit on shipping and fulfillment for a second, as I mentioned earlier, you know, there's been some big changes from a shipping perspective into the UK right now. So post-Brexit, from the 1st of Jan, they went to a $0 or £0 VAT. So every product that goes into the country requires you to pay VAT on it. And I believe there's also European legislation that's just come up, which means that any retailer selling from outside of Europe now needs to be registered in Europe in order for them to be charged their VAT. So these are really key things to think about. And again, you know, come to us, eShipper is more than happy to kind of set you up with a custom broker and give you the right advice. But these are things not to be taken lightly because these are country regulations as opposed to people's likes and needs and so on and so forth. When it comes to shipping and fulfillment, this is where, you know, I can talk till tomorrow and we don't have the time to listen to Imtiaz, but I'll try and drift through these as quickly as I can. So as we talked about, dimensions and weight of a package is really, really important. Thinking about customs and duties. If I'm in the UK and I just purchased a product from you, I really expect a tracking number. And I expect to be able to see full tracking or some level of tracking. Again, set the expectations with your customer, use the right product in order for them to be able to satisfy their tracking needs, because it's a credibility thing. You know, people are very quick to go in and review you if they didn't get their product on time or it was damaged and so on and so forth. So do your research on that. I think one of the key things that I would really recommend to anybody in Canada who is looking at an international market is think about the trade agreements that we have available to us. So Canada just secured a renewal on NAFTA, which is now known as CUSMA, the Canadian US trade agreement, which also includes Mexico. You've got the CPTPP, which is a Pacific agreement, and then you have CETA, which is a phenomenal European agreement that Canada and Europe have. And they're working now after Brexit on a UK-based program too. So one of the things we get a ton of is customers from Europe that are kind of manufacturing their products there, and their biggest buyers are in the US. But they don't know that they can actually come into Canada duty free and then ship across the world from here, or across North America from here. So a lot of good stuff that Canadians can sell out to Europe without paying duties and taxes, as well as buying products from Europe without thinking about duties and taxes. So definitely something to keep in the back of your minds. Choosing the right shipping carrier. Shipping carriers are of two types. You have a courier or an express carrier like DHL, UPS, and FedEx. And you have localized carriers, or sorry, mail-based carriers like Canada Post, USPS, Royal Mail, and so on. We also work with a very well-renowned carrier called Aramex that has two levels of service. One is more of an express and one is more of an e-commerce. DHL has the same type of agreement. They have a hybrid solution called DHL eCommerce. So when you're thinking about shipping, it's not always that you only have one option, which is DHL Express or UPS Express. You also have these hybrid solutions that allow you to get much better rate structures by utilizing mail services on the end company. So for example, if I use DHL e-commerce from Canada and it was going to the UK, Royal Mail will actually do the final mile delivery, and it's a full tracked service. You get a delivery confirmation. There's $100 of insurance with that product, and you're using a very reputable company like DHL or Aramex who have these e-commerce based services. A question from one of our listeners is, do I need to ship internationally in high volumes to be able to get better shipping rates? Absolutely not. What you're doing is you're using e-shippers buying power to be able to facilitate the volume that you don't have today. So yes, you can absolutely get really competitive rates even if you're brand new to shipping internationally. And again, when you're picking a carrier, think about speed and accuracy as well as tracking. And if cost is the biggest implication to you, then think about e-commerce based carriers, as we mentioned earlier. But there's a ton of different ways to slice and dice. Work with an account manager, work with a 3PL, work with an actual carrier who has the knowledge to give you the pros and cons of using different services. So with that being said, the last thing I want to talk about from a shipping perspective, and kind of rounding up what we talked about with Google, is today you're able to sell to a US-based consumer even though you're a Canadian merchant. And one of the key things that eShipper has created is a service called PBX, which allows you to ship consumable FDA type products across the border without having to worry about certification and everything else. This is a pretty big game changer when you're selling things like candy, tea, coffee, protein powder, and so on and so forth. We found a lot of new businesses pop up in the grocery industry who are struggling to get their product across to the US, which has 10 times more of a population. So with this shipping product, you're actually able to take advantage of not just Google, but also shipping products that you would normally not be able to ship without going through a bunch of different processes and prior notifications and so on and so forth. So just a really big roundup on the shipping side. Again, if you have any other questions, please do let us know. Let's quickly just go through some of the questions that we've got on the forum here. So could you share any tips on best ways of shipping internationally? We just went through that. So great question, Dushyant. It's on the screen as well. Since you're discussing international markets, is there a support available for my business to identify new potential markets outside of Canada? Absolutely, Zaira. So we have a entity within our business here that allows us to do market audits for you in different countries, and really give you insights, and do that kind of science and artwork for you, to give you a real good leap forward in terms of picking the right markets. Does Canada Post ship internationally? All mail services ship internationally. All courier services ship internationally. Couple of things that kind of separate them or differentiate them is more on the tracking side, the speed in terms of transit times, and the cost. So those are things to really look out for. If you have more questions like that, and especially specific examples, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to support you with that. Let's move on to, I think, more.
I want to add something. Sorry, Antias. I want to add. We actually do also have a market finder tool, which can help obviously take your business to new markets as well. So leveraging this as well as obviously the plethora of tools that eShipper provides is a great place to start as well.
Great. And I see we've actually shared a couple of links in the comment section. So a couple around some of the questions that were asked earlier. So thank you so much for sharing those, guys. And Dahlia, at the end, before we leave as well, maybe we can talk a little bit about these support links that you've shared and how people can really utilize them. So now we get to more of the sexy part of the discussion, which is the marketing strategies, especially when we're thinking about Google Shopping and buy on Google. So take us away, Dahlia. Give us a little bit of an insight in what you guys are doing to help, these e-commerce businesses really utilize Google Shopping and getting their brand out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about it a little before, right? The 3 programs available to Canadian retailers, merchants, and shopping ads being probably the most well-known. Let's be honest there. So I want to provide just a visual of where these placements are. We say, okay, well, ads, great. That's fantastic. Like how are you getting to know, your user base? How can you reach them? So these are our top, our desktop carousel and the mobile carousel that essentially surfaces whenever an item is searched upon, whether at a top funnel, discovery, informational kind of journey, or at a downward funnel. And these carousels are available on, the different surfaces as well. So that's something that, again, everything is done within our Google Merchant Center. You would link this to your Google Ads account and run any campaigns with any budgets or keywords, whether that's your whole feed or if it's only certain products, maybe with seasonality or, long weekends, holidays, things of that sort that you want to highlight, or maybe things are going on sale that you want to highlight and add annotations and things of that sort. This is, a great place to start there if you have that, I like
the fact that some of these images actually have stars on them, and I guess they also have links to reviews, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of clicks in my mind straight away. Like my eyes are drawn to that before drawn to anything else. So I'm guessing that's one of the biggest tactics as well, is make sure you have social proof and kind of the ability to show people that you sell this product and people like it.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we're partnered with with ratings and we aggregate those through the web and such, and going back to that mission, serving that mission of providing that user and that merchant the best experience and connecting them. So I know we talked briefly about what if you don't know what you're buying, you don't know this. These are ways that we're trying to provide the best frictionless experience for that user as well. So I'll kind of dive now into what can be incremental or a standalone, really. So that free listings on Google. So again, we came out with this last year in the US and then opened it up to now 48 countries at the end of last year. So this is your opportunity, obviously, as we're talking about looking at new markets. Where do I sell? Which one would be, the most beneficial from a shipping perspective? So obviously that's where eShipper's, expertise is heavily weighed here. Looking at just organic free opportunity to expand your reach. That's really what this is. So within free listings, there's essentially kind of 2 buckets and 2 types of listings. There's your standard listings, which are just either show up in text or they will show up in non-enhanced areas. Our shopping tab, which is what we call also the property. So either by clicking at the shopping tab at the top of your search page or going directly to shopping.google.com, these are enhanced listings. So enhanced listings, obviously, we're looking at great PDPs. We're looking at more than one image. We're looking at high quality images. And there's a plethora of attributes that we look for to be able to surface these products on more just enhanced experience pages, more browsy pages for that user experience. So I'll go ahead and share a link, which the team can share in a bit, of just what those attributes may be different and things of that sort. So that's just a great opportunity, again, either incrementally to get free additional organic traffic or or as a standalone if you are, you're new to ecom, maybe went from that brick and mortar now to digital, and don't maybe are trying to build out your marketing plan. That's a great place to just start to, get your feet wet, understand the systems and things of that sort. And Woodland Direct was another obviously case study that we did last year, saw a 7% lift in their website traffic in Q2 of a year ago. So at the height of COVID at the beginning. And, it's supplemental, like I said, or free organic traffic. So it's great to mix that. It's great to leverage both. And why not? More reach, more visibility, more conversions, right? Absolutely. So, and then this last piece, which is that buy on Google piece that I already mentioned. So that is now live in the US, domestic, and now Canadians can sell south of the border down into the US. So the great thing about buy on Google is, so last year we made this 0 commission. So before it was a commission model depending on the category and various things of that sort. Now we're getting back to that mission, providing that best user experience for the merchant and the consumer. So we've taken out that commission, that commission, 0 commission to list there. Obviously, some PSP fees might apply, but still a decent, margin that could be there. Yeah. And exposure to a market, and with obviously eShippers, great rates, that's, an opportunity to get more reach into a market as things get more digital and such. So universal cart, there's a lot of things that we have planned for that as well, which hopefully we'll have another session on, later this year. But, some best practices, and thank you for moving this along. You're on my pace, loving it. So, post-launch best practices, obviously your assortment. You want to provide, your entire eligible catalog, make sure they have great photos, make sure they're, priced well. And, think about where you want that shipping piece to be, like can you do a faster shipping rate? Are you currently in a few warehouses, or are you just in one? And just again, being that transparent merchant, and utilizing obviously eShipper's expertise on what works best for maybe certain regions or certain verticals and products of sorts. And within Merchant Center, obviously, we have tools like promotions and other analytical things that you can leverage to highlight product listings. So having either, there's banners, there's little annotations on product listings that can be, a price markdown, or just 20% off, or, buy bulk buying type of thing. So ways to get a little more attention from that user, but also, increase conversions either on your site or obviously on buy on Google. And then I already mentioned this, but product detail pages, merchants, users want to know what they're buying. Just like, so share as much as you can, share the measurements, share the sizings, share, all of that. And that's really, a great place to start and get your understanding and your business off the ground.
That's really, really useful. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I know we've hit the 2:00 mark. We'll keep going for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Both Dahlia and I, I'll say it now, we're very talkative, and we have had quite a bit of fun going through this. We've got maybe one more topic after this one left, so we'll try and go through these, but they're very important. So we'll spend a little bit of time on them, and we'll keep you as engaged as possible. So in terms of going global, go local, I think, when it comes to influencers, everybody kind of knows how influencers work. It's been something that people have used for a long time. But I know that something that's becoming more of a trend is, kind of looking at micro influencers as opposed to macro influencers. So you can work with an influencer that has 3 million followers, and it's very likely that, they're great at what they do, but the engagement of 3 million people at 100% is not always there, as opposed to micro influencers who are more focused on specific regions. Their followers are more focused on a specific type of product or a specific type of topic, very, very more engaged, and kind of get more bang for your buck because they're not as big, so they don't have that much of a budget that you need to work with. But when it comes to influencers, I think things that you need to really think about are what are the channels that you really want to get your product out on, and who are the right influencers for those channels. Always think about your budget, right, and your KPI. So how do you measure that, the 10K you spend or the $2,000 that you spend? How did you actually measure out and get your success out of it? The other thing is, there's tons of tools to find the right influencer. So you may not know influencers that are selling your type of product. I believe from YouTube as well as Instagram, there are paid programs. So I'll mention some of them. One is called Open Slate and one is called Group High, and we'll share those with you. There's Social Blade as well. And these are areas where you can actually go find influencers specifically to the medium that they do really, really well in. So some products sell really well on YouTube, some are on Instagram. TikTok is becoming a phenomenon, and some of our inside sales guys at eShip are actually on TikTok, and they're doing a pretty damn good job. So we have to sometimes give them that celebrity complex too as they walk around the office. But anybody can become a celebrity nowadays on TikTok, right? So it's a great area for you to think about when you're thinking about influencers, and it definitely works. Another thing about going into a market that you're not so used to or that's quite different to Canada is localizing it for search engines there. Localization of the actual branding and marketing, the language that you use, the colors that you use, really, really important. So thinking about the content that you use, and then also thinking about locally standardized values like currencies and the this is a crazy thing, but measurement units, right? Like I'm from the UK, centimeters, meters. Here I come, and it's inches and pounds and all sorts. And I think even in Canada, it's not supposed to be like that. It's more of a US thing. I'm not sure, but I had to learn, right? And I'm always on my phone trying to check the different metrics and so on and so forth. So it's important that if you're in certain markets, use the measurements and currencies for those markets, because people will make a decision faster and they don't need to think too much about it. I guess the last thing comes hand in hand with what we talked about earlier, which is try and create the content specific to the country you're going to, because you do want to focus on certain things like seasons, holidays that are particular to those countries, and just kind of using terms and things that people understand there, right? So be sharp in understanding that not everybody speaks Canadian, and they like to be spoken to in their local language. So that's great. Let's keep moving the slides forward. So I think in terms of scaling the business and thinking about how Google can really help you to think about the markets that you should go into, we talked a little bit about these trends and insights and kind of tools that are available for free online. So take a note of these because you can search them and go use them today.
We're actually gonna share those links with you guys, so you don't have to search them at all. We'll make that easy for you. But these are great tools. Like, they're easy to use. They're super informative, educational. Please leverage them. It's really, to your benefit. We want you guys to be extremely knowledgeable and to be able to really grow and scale, and leverage the tools we're building for you guys. So
great. So with that being said, we come to our final few slides, which are more about I'm ready to go international, but I don't think I have the right amount of investment to make it work the right way I want it to. Or I'm a little bit afraid on fraud because some people internationally can defraud the system by using different payment gateways and so on and so forth. So where do you go and really get the information you need when it comes to funding or security and so on and so forth? So all 3 points here are partners of eShipper, right? So come through us, we'll probably be able to get you to the right department faster. But EDC, or Export Development Canada, is a great partner of ours, and they provide a bunch of information on domestic markets. So if you're looking at insights or trends and you want to just kind of look at it and credibilize it, you can go through the government and they'll be able to share a ton of insights that will help you to kind of compare what you're finding on Google on your own search terms as opposed to what the government and their local counterparts in those countries do. Export Development Canada also gives you a bunch of tools to offset risks when it comes to payment terms and so on and so forth. So really great resource to use there. There's funding available because Canadian businesses don't do this often. They don't go international as fast as they need to. So the government has money and subsidies that they provide in order to help you leapfrog the decision making and the funding thought process. There's $75,000 available today by the Trade Commissioner from Canada to allow you to open up and get into new markets. And then, one of the fastest growing startups in Canada is Clearbank, and they've been doing a phenomenal job of supporting online businesses. They work on a ton of different tools from, financing inventory to financing your marketing online to really giving you an ability to understand what's going on around. So there is a ton of different tools out there to help you get your product into new hands and into new eyes. Please come through us if you need any support on deciphering who the right people to go to are. And we do have great relationships, so we can definitely open up the right conversation with the right people. So with that being said, I think, it goes back to our point around going global is a concept that most people are taking a lot of advantage of today, with globalization and the world becoming so small, with social media and just being able to put your website and make it available to millions of people with one touch or one click, allows you to now start thinking about, okay, so if I do go international, how fast can I do it? Who are the right people to do it with? And really the nuances of making sure that when you go into an international market, you're picking and choosing the right battles and making sure that you're prepared from a website perspective, a funding perspective, a shipping perspective, and most importantly, a marketing perspective. So with that being said, Dahlia, any last words of wisdom, anything that we've missed out that you think is really, really beneficial to the viewers today?
I mean, we obviously covered an extensive amount. I know it can be very overwhelming as just, a fire hydrant of information. So please utilize the links we've shared. Obviously, utilize eShipper's account management teams. They're a plethora of knowledge. They've educated me significantly in the market and the tools they leverage. If you guys want to get started on Google Shopping, you could visit merchants.google.com to get started and sign up. Pretty easy user flow there. And then if you have any questions, we've shared already our merchant support, outlet or form, have you, as well as the other links. So good luck. We're excited to see you guys grow, and I'm sure there'll be, more events coming from us.
Absolutely. Dahlia, it's been a pleasure hosting you today. It's an incredible honor for me as well as eShipper to be working so closely with Google and having the ability to bring you to our online merchants and our audience today. I know it's pretty busy out there in your world, so thank you so much for taking the time.